But anyway, thank you guys for coming. Today's workshop is going to be on time management. My name is Ming. I work in the business department and I teach accounting. And I'm also a faculty leader in Center Teaching Excellence. And so we put on a variety of workshop events throughout the year, and I hope you guys can attend more of those to improve teaching for instructors and find out ways to help our students. So the reason I thought about this workshop was just to give you a background about myself. I used to work in the corporate industry for 7 years before going into education. And about 3.5 of those years, I worked at a big CPA firm called Deloitte. And over there, it's very, very intense. We operate on something called billable hours. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Most attorneys operate on billable hours. So it's not how many hours we're in the office, it's how much revenue we can generate. So we have to bill out so many hours. So we have to be very, very efficient with our time. And if we're not, the result is we're going to be counted out. That means you're fired. Okay, so it's a very, very brutal lifestyle. So I've learned a lot of time management skills by working there. And also, I think in the past 2 or 3 years, I've been teaching here. I've been teaching at SMC full-time, probably about 7 or 8 years. Just the last few years, I started realizing that I need to kind of grow myself. Before, I was just focusing on teaching, developing my lesson plan, but I realized to be a better professor, we have to go not just beyond our teaching our subject matter, but also just improving on ourselves. So I read a lot of self-help books, and one of the topics I got really interested in was time management. And so all the material that I'm going to be sharing with you today came from my corporate background, as well as several books that I've read, probably 5 or 6 books in the past few years to come up with this material. Okay? All right. The importance of time management. Let me start by sharing a quote with you by a gentleman named Alan Lakin. He's a Harvard MBA and personal time management expert. The reason I knew about him was someone had interviewed President Bill Clinton a few years back and asked him, what are some books that you read that were inspirational to you and made a big difference in your life? And one of the authors mentioned was Alan Lakin, and he taught the president the importance of time management. And here's a quote from Alan. Time equals life. Therefore, waste your time and waste your life. Or master your time and master your life. So when I saw that quote, it really hit me hard, right? Am I really making the best use of my time? Realize time is a finite resource. Everyone in the world has different levels of wealth, but we all, at most, only have 24 hours in a day, right? So someone like a multi-billionaire like Richard Branson or Mark Cuban, even for them, they only have 24 hours in a day. Time management should be your #1 priority because the more time you have, the more things you can get done, the more goals you can accomplish. The more time you have for leisure, the more time you can spend with your family, the more time you have to do the things you always wanted to do. And so, I mentioned the Center Teaching Excellence will be providing workshops. I know a lot of faculty attend, but I also hear some people say, you know what, these ideas are great, but I just don't have the time to implement them in my courses. So hopefully, after listening to this time management workshop, you'll actually have some time to try out these ideas. And also, I promised Frank Chandler, who's our Senate President, that I'll try to recruit some of you all to join some of the Senate committees because we really need people to help contribute. So maybe if this freed up time, you would really enjoy joining the academic Senate committees. Okay, they really need your help. Okay. Strategies for time management. I grouped today's talk into 3 categories, and here's the roadmap. First, I'd like to talk about some general tips on time saving and increasing efficiency. Second, planning and budgeting your time. And lastly, some specific tips for you guys as professors on how to save time when you teach your course. First, just some general time saving tips and tips on increasing efficiency. Reduce recreational screen time. Get adequate sleep and exercise. Avoid multitasking. Pack a simple lunch instead of going out to eat. Maximize your commute time. So I'll go in detail over every one of these items. I mean, there's probably a lot more time-saving tips, but based on the books I've read, these are probably the 5 big ones, and they will save you a chunk of time. Reduce recreational screen time. I know I just casually went on to, I know I'm I watch a lot of TV myself, but I just went online this morning, went to Google, and looked up how much time the average American spends watching TV or going on the internet. You guys want to guess? How much time do you think people spend a day?
4 hours.
Yeah, I think the surveys vary, but I think it's somewhere between 3.5 to 5 hours. That's pretty scary, right? I'm supposed to work about 8 hours per day. If you're also spending that much time de-stressing, right? That's quite a bit. Yeah. They used to be people mostly spend time on TV, but now they change that by spending time watching like YouTube or on Facebook, right? So about anywhere from 3 to 5 hours per day. So here's some strategies that can help you save some time. One is to watch less TV, right? How do you do that? Reduce the number of TV shows that you watch. Reduce the number of sports teams that you follow, right? It's really interesting. I go to a married couples Bible study group, and the wife is always saying, her husband doesn't have enough time for her, and he's saying, oh, because he has to study for an exam. He's studying for some sort of it's an actuary exam or something. He's really busy with that. But what I didn't understand was, how can he have time to watch all the Dodgers games? I think there's 162 games. He actually watches all the games. He has a season ticket holder. So I believe baseball games last about 3 hours per day. Yeah, he has time to watch all of them. Yeah, so, but I guess Dodgers is more important than me. Yeah, I didn't really understand that. So, why maybe cut back on some of those games, right? He might kill me if I told him that, but cut back on some of those games. Record your TV programs instead of watching them live. So what I used to do was I'm really cheap. I have a VCR, so I just record the game, and then tell my wife, don't tell me the score, right? Record the game and then watch it afterwards. Now I'm willing to spend a little bit more money, so I got TiVo. Right? Some of you guys have cables, right? You have a DVR, so record the game, right? You can wait an hour for knowing the result, right? That way you can fast forward through all the commercials, as well as when the players are kind of smoking around and stuff. I went online and some surveys said that for every 1 hour of TV, there's going to be 15 minutes of commercial. That's what, 25%. So if you can just record that TV show or record that game, you can right away save 25% of that time, right? That you can use for improving your lesson plans, running academic senate. All right. All right. Next, spend less time on the internet. Right? Try to cut back on your time on YouTube, Facebook, online games. A lot of times, the internet is very addictive. You go on there, and next thing you know, 2 hours have passed, 3 hours have passed. So monitor your time on the internet. I don't know about you guys, but occasionally I have a hard time falling asleep at night. And what do? Turn on the TV, start watching shows I really care less about. Start surfing the internet, start watching cat videos or something, right? You get distracted, watching cartoons. So if you can't fall asleep, don't do that, right? Try to do something that you plan to do the next day, right? Because these things are addictive. Try to stay away from them. What's something else that you can do to save a lot of time? Get adequate sleep and exercise. Aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Otherwise, you'll lose efficiency the next day. Decrease, if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to decrease your efficiency. I'm going to share a story back from my corporate days. So when I used to work in the corporate world, it was really intense. We had to, during business season, we had to generate between 60 to 80 billable hours per week. So that we have to work that many hours and charge the client that much money. So we can't goof around too much, right? We were charging the client, I was charging the client $250 per hour. And this was back in, I was working in my corporate job. This was between 2000 to 2004. Right? So now the rate's even higher. So I worked about 60 to 80 hours per week. And I remember one of my coworkers, he was a workaholic. His name was Jeff, and he, instead of working 60 to 80 hours, he went gung-ho. He worked 80 to 100 hours per week, so generating a lot of revenue for the company. But the interesting thing was, at the end of the business season, the first quarter, he was actually the first guy that the company let go or canceled out. Do you guys know why? He worked a lot of hours, But
Quality of work was
exactly. So 60 to 80 hours. I mean, that means I'm pretty much working 7 days a week. When I go home, I'm getting to bed right away. Maybe I watch half an hour TV, falling asleep right away. So this guy Jeff, I mean, he had no life. I mean, he was working there constantly. But you guys realize that we're not robots, we're human beings, and so he didn't get enough sleep. And when you don't get enough sleep, you're going to take when you do your work, you're going to take twice as long as someone else. So yeah, you generate a lot of hours, but clients were very upset because it took too long to get their tasks done. You made a lot of errors. So we need to make sure that we budget time for sleep, and that's the optimal time based on research is between 7 to 8 hours. The second thing is to exercise regularly, right? Exercise equals a better night's sleep, right? You get a much deeper sleep. I don't know if the term, is it called REM sleep or non-REM sleep? I'm not sure what the exact term is. But there's like light sleep and deep sleep. So if you get enough, if you exercise, you go into that deep sleep mode a lot sooner, and you will actually need less hours of sleep. So for me personally, I used to not exercise all the time, but my doctor told me that my cholesterol levels was increasing, so I had to go work out. And, I just said I didn't have time, but my doctor said, if you don't do that, you're going to have to be put on medication. So I started working out more often, and what I discovered that is if I exercise rigorously for about 45 minutes each day, I can actually wake up about 2 hours earlier the next day. And that's why a lot of people in the corporate world actually put in time to exercise, right? It's not only it's good for your health, but it actually saves you a lot of time. You can wake up a lot earlier the next day. So in my situation, if I work out for 45 minutes and I wake up an extra 2 hours earlier the next day, I'm actually, by exercising, I'm actually getting an extra an hour and 50 minutes that I can use to do more work. The next thing you can do to save a lot, yeah, go ahead.
Is that for 7 days you work out 45 minutes, or is that
Great question. I personally work out probably 5 days a week, but it's really up to you. I just noticed the days I do work out, I go into a deeper mode of sleep. But my Tuesdays and Thursdays, my schedule is pretty stacked, so I just can't work out. It's really up to you. And I think every person's body is different. The key is just to try it. Try it for 1 day and see how it works. If it works out well, continue doing that, right? Yeah, exactly.
You want to work out 2 hours.
Yeah, and find something you enjoy doing, right? The third thing you can do to save a lot of time is avoid multitasking. Okay? I think multitasking is a word that got generated in the 1990s from some corporates, some corporate term that got generated during that time. And people were so concerned about being politically correct. And you had to multitask. That's something you had to put on your resume, right? But really, it reduces both efficiency and effectiveness. I've been in the corporate world. Yes, we do have to do a lot of things during the day, but you really can't do these things simultaneously. What they mean by multitasking really means, okay, then today you're going to get 10 things done. But when you do these 10 things, you focus on each one at a time, right? So for example, I work on one client's tax return. I work in the tax profession, so I work on one tax return for an hour, another tax return for 2 hours, another tax return for another hour, and so forth. I'm not working on multiple tax returns at the same time. But somehow this word gets distorted, and our students think that, multitasking means I'm going to do my homework, I'm going to listen to the radio, I'm going to chew some gum, I'm going to go on Facebook, I'm going to text message, all at one time, right? What happens then? Your mind gets distracted, and what takes longer, you can get the task done, and you become very inefficient. Right? So don't multitask. Try to do your work in uninterrupted bunches. Basically set aside blocks of time to avoid distractions, right? Really boost up your speed and improve your work quality. Always focus on a task at hand. Don't get distracted by things that suddenly pop up. Right? During the day, all things will pop up. Right? I know because I go on Yahoo to check my mail, and then I see some article, right? Something that happened, and I easily get distracted, right? Or get emotional about it. So when something comes up, write it down. Right? You want to go back and look at it, but write it down. Wait till the end of the day to get more time to look at it more thoroughly. Write it down. Yes.
So how do you avoid getting distracted by the internet? You just say, well, from 6 to 6:15, I'm going to look at the internet.
Exactly.
Is that what you do?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go.
Schedule like internet time or?
Yeah,
with
well,
the internet, or?
that's a great question. The last part of my talk will be on specific things that professors can do, and so I'll get to that. Basically, just to let you know in advance, is just to set 2 times during the day to check email, and during those times you check email, if you see something on the internet, just tell yourself don't look at it. Or if if the headlines just catch your eye, then like man kills himself or something, right? Write it down. Say, okay, I'm gonna go back and look at it later. Right? Because these media sources are all trying to get your attention. That's how they make money. So yeah, give it the attention, but just wait until the end of the day, because otherwise, the next thing you know, an hour or 2 has passed by. Right? Okay, 4th item. Pack a simple lunch instead of going out to eat. Basically, make a sandwich. Bring a couple bananas. Make that your lunch. Saves you a lot of time. I noticed some people, my coworkers before, they would, when I was working in the cook room, they actually, for lunch, they would drive out, right? They would drive out. You have to take time to walk to your car, drive to the restaurant location, sit down, order food, eat your food, drive back. There you go, an hour wasted, right? But if you just take the time to pack your lunch the night before, you can finish your lunch in 5 minutes. What I do is when I commute over here, I actually eat my lunch in my car, and I'm ready to go, right? And also when you eat your own lunch, it's not too heavy, right? If you go out to eat, usually the food is pretty heavy. When you come back, you're tired or sleepy. There you go. Your afternoon, you're not as efficient. So by making your own lunch, I know it's very simple. If you make your own lunch, you save time, you become efficient. And also you save money. I'm all about saving money, right? So I'm going to save money and you save calories. Right? And the last time saving tip I'd like to share with you guys is to maximize your commute time. Right? If possible, try to reduce your commute time. Right? I think I was based on some research I saw in Southern California, the average commute time is about an hour round trip. Right? An hour, maybe an hour and a half. How long do you guys commute here?
An hour and a half.
Each way or round trip?
Each way.
Wow, 3 hours round trip.
Same,
Right?
yes.
3 hours round trip, crazy. Right? So for some of you, the commute time is pretty long. So for me, my commute time is about 2.5 hours round trip. Okay, so round trip. That's not that bad. One of my coworkers from the corporate, back to my corporate days, he used to commute 4 hours round trip. Yeah, so he worked for 8 hours and commuted 4 hours round trip, and all because he lived in Cerritos, so he wanted his kids to go to a good school, so he was going to make that sacrifice. So if you can, try to move closer to work. Right? Steve, I'm glad you're here, right? You used to live in Pasadena, now you moved to Santa Monica. Yeah. So how's your commute now? 10 minutes. Perfect, right? So be like Steven. Be like Steven. Just pay a lot of money then. Or become his friend. Stay over at his place. Right? Become his friend. Stay over at his place.
You're gonna go in the closet.
So move closer to work, right? Try to adjust your schedule so you don't have to commute during rush hour. That's the other thing you can do. So for me, I try to, when I don't go home, I could go home right after class, but I choose to wait until 8:30 to drive back, right? Because I think sitting on the road is a waste of time. So try to adjust your schedule. Take advantage of online tools. When I started working here, the one that I used the most was abc7.com traffic. I would go on there before I hit the road and see, how the traffic is. If it's bad, I'm just work some more in my office, right? Nowadays I use Google Maps. If you take out your cell phone and you say distance to, right, and you state the address, it will show you how long it's going to take to get there. So if I notice that there's a traffic jam, I should work some more, right? Why waste it on the road? And have you guys tried the Waze app? Okay, just a new app now that shows you the fastest route.
I understand.
So what are some of the problems with the Waze app?
Well, I just hate it because I live in Venice and people
Okay.
want to be in Lincoln, so it just you end up routing people through all these neighborhoods.
Okay.
And kids have to navigate. But I understand. People love my friend that commutes from Glendale to San Pedro 4 times a day. She uses it because it takes her on back. It takes you on back roads, so you're not always on the freeway. Yeah. It's supposed to maximize the quickest route possible when you're side street or freeway, right? Isn't that
Exactly. Winnie, question.
I think Waze is a great app, but it's also user-based. So people on the road will say, okay, I've seen a police on the side of the road, it's visible, invisible, or there's an accident or a stalled vehicle. But there are some times where neighborhoods have come together, and in the mornings or the afternoons, they'll say there's traffic on their road, so they'll divert traffic from their street. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it may or may not save you time.
Okay, so use it with discretion. If you find that it's effective, keep using it. Now, for some people, like you tried all these things, you can't move closer to home, move closer to work. You tried all these applications, it still doesn't work. Well, at least try to make good use of your commute time, right? What I do is work on self-development by listening to audiobooks. There's a website called audible.com, and it's part of Amazon. So I download a lot of self-improvement books, to help improve myself. So use that time to listen to these audiobooks, right? Make phone calls, right? Usually before I hit the road, if there's some people I need to speak to, right, just make sure I type in the phone number and then call them. So I called you, Winnie, right? On Tuesday, right? I was actually stuck in traffic. Great time to chat with you, see how you're doing with your classes and so forth. Right? Make all your phone calls during that time. Eat your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. That's what I do. Oh, then yeah, be careful. Your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Use that time to think and reflect about things that happened during the day. So, as a faculty leader at the Center for Teaching Excellence, we're always talking about various ideas, and sometimes there's certain ideas that I perhaps may not agree with that my colleagues share. So I use that time to kind of think, like, where are they coming from? Why are they saying that? So I have an hour and a half to go. Might as well use that time to try to understand people. Or I call them, right? Maybe they said something that I agree with, or I talk to them, hey, can you explain to me why you came up with that perspective? Use that time to think and reflect. I think a lot of times we hear something and react too quickly. We take the time to talk to that other person, see where they're coming from. We can kind of understand why they're saying what they're saying. Catch up on the news via the radio. Use that time to unwind or de-stress by listening to relaxing music. That's what one of my friends does. He says he needs that time, that part to relax before he goes home. Otherwise he'll get violent. A little bit too much information, right? So he listens to like techno music before he goes home. And if you take public transportation, maybe you take public transportation, bus, we all drive. But yeah, if you take the train, when I used to work in corporate world, I used to take a bus, so I'd use that time to read, plan my next day, so forth. But if you're driving, it might be kind of dangerous like that. Okay, so do you guys have any questions about the 5 time saving tips? So there's other tips out there. I'm pretty sure you do. I have some books. I have some recommended readings that's worth at the end of the presentation. But if you go online, there's a lot of tips out there. But I think those are the 5 big ones that'll save you a lot of time. They're not too hard to implement. Yes?
So how do you motivate yourself to do some of these things, like cut that on the internet and stuff like that? It's like really addictive. So how do you motivate yourself to kind of do some of these kind of?
Well, I think this next part of my presentation will get to that, because to me, any time saved, I can use it for something that I want to do, like spend time with my family, or like, I don't know if can I say that I'm religious here? In school, we're protected, right? It's about religion. So for me, I always tell people that I try to, I don't want to be just a routine Catholic, someone who goes to church all the time. I want to actually, deepen my faith. Because one of my students one time asked me about like religion, so I couldn't really say much. So I realized that, now's the time to spend, reading more, right? And to just grow and improve. I don't want to be stagnant, right? Yeah, one of my biggest fears is just turning into another government employee. I actually want to grow and be a better instructor, be a better colleague, do something more for the college. So that's my motivational factor. I think for all of you it's different. Yes, for some people maybe you want to spend more time with family. For some people maybe you want to spend more time traveling. That's my biggest motivation. Okay, so the second part of my talk will be on specific strategy that I personally use. And I came up with it by reading all these books out there. It's called Planning and Budgeting Your Time. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing you want to do is create a time budget for each day of the week. And here are the steps to do that. To start, before you actually even do a time budget, what you should do is keep a time journal. A time journal and document how much time you spend each day on various activities. Right? Do that for every single day. I know it's very tedious, but do that for every single day. By the way, you guys don't need to take notes. I'll send these out via faculty office. Right? I'll send these notes out. Right? So you want to keep a time journal, document how much you spend. When you spend your time on every day of the week for a week. And do that. Just do it on a notepad or something like that. Right? And then at the end of the week, you want to, for every single day, you want to group these items. You want to group all your activities into these main categories. Like for me, I have commuting, Christian time, exercise, family, other, personal work, errands. Real work means doing stuff for the college. Religious, rest and relaxation, self-improvement, and social. Right? You may want to add more or subtract from this list. Let me show you. I can type it out here. What I mean by the time budget, as a sample time budget. So this is the stuff I actually use in my own life. So time budget. Here we go. So you guys see? So I came up with the time budget. Right. So this is my life here. This is Monday and Wednesday. Because every day of the week is different. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I work from home. Tuesdays and Thursdays I'm here on campus. So I just document, what time, how much time. This took a couple of years to refine. Right? In the beginning it was kind of chaotic, but you get better and better. Right? It's just like working on. You practice. Eventually I come up with this schedule, right? And then you see all these. I record the minutes or by hours here, and then you come up with a total, right? So the reason why it's not 24 hours is because we need to get some sleep, right? And so on Mondays and Wednesdays I don't have to commute, so there's no commute time. But as you can see here, I try to do some religion stuff for 35 minutes. Family time is about 2 hours and 35 minutes. Personal work or errands, that's kind of like seeing the dentist, going grocery shopping, so forth. Exercise, not so much. Working on SNC stuff is 4 hours, 75 minutes. The rest of you exercise self-improvement. So for you all, it will be different, right? So you want to create a time budget. Now, when you first do your time diary, you might be shocked because you realize, oh, I didn't know I spent that much time watching TV, or I don't know I spent that much. I think the biggest shocker is that you'll realize most of the time is just wasted, kind of just moving around. That's why planning is important. You want to eliminate that waste time. Now, if you want to watch TV, go ahead. But what you really want to do is save time, just kind of being indecisive. So you come up with this time. So I did this. I have it for every day of the week, and then I summarize it here. This is how much so I can tell that I spend 38.5 hours doing work. Or how much time do I spend with my family? 16 hours. My wife feels like I never spend enough time with people, family. So I'm making that increase. So this is your time budget. You guys see? I mean, you want me to switch back to the slide mode. You guys can see it? Alright, cool. So you can add on to this kind of, if some of you guys are single, you can remove family time, right? Or if you're not religious, you can remove religious, right? So you can add on to it. So maybe for those who are single, you have to put in time for dating or something. And that is important. I have some single guy friends who say they don't have a girlfriend, but they don't budget time for dating. You have to date to get a girlfriend. I forgot. So once you do your time journal, compare your time journal versus your time budget. Your time journal versus what you actually thought you spent. Like you're probably going to be surprised, right? You spend more time on certain things than you shouldn't be, right? So then you come up with your time budget that can show you. And don't worry, in the beginning you might realize that you're not that efficient. Right? You might be spending too much time, maybe spending too much time exercising, too much time on recreation. But slowly you want to shave off the recreation time and allocate to other things that you really want to do. So once you have your time budget down, the next thing you do is to create a to-do list every night for the following day. A to-do list. And so let me show you what my to-do list looks like. So this was my to-do list for, this is my to-do list. You can see, I know it's kind of hard, the screen is kind of small. Is this okay? So this is my to-do list for yesterday, right? So I have two categories here. One is like personal stuff, personal work stuff, and this is for like schoolwork. So these are the things so the night before, so on Tuesday night, I wrote down these are the things I need to do. So then also I just write down how much time I think I'll be spending on these things. For example, I put a lot of time into doing this presentation, but I want to get a second set of eyes to make sure that the content is something of value to you guys. So one of my friends on campus, a lady Maria from the English department, I asked her if she could take a look at my slides. So I wanted to talk to her. So I budgeted some time for that. I needed to email my department chair about something. I needed to email Fran Chandler, our Senate president, about something. So I budgeted every single thing I needed to do, like grading my exams and so on. Right? And then I prioritized them, like what order do I need to do it. Actually, before I do that, you see here, the reason why you want to create a time budget is, when I first did this, I think I put here, like this one was an hour. Yeah, this one was an hour, and I think this one was, so it came out to be 6 hours and 75 minutes. So then once you have your to-do list, you want to compare that to your time budget, right? So how many hours do I have to do work? I only have 4 hours and 75 minutes, right? So a lot of times people only do you guys probably already do a to-do list, but the issue of a to-do list is that sometimes you put too many things on that to-do list that you're not able to accomplish most of those, and then you get depressed, right? So the key to really having success is to do a to-do list, but also compare it against your time budget. You guys kind of follow me what I'm saying here? So I only have 4 hours and 75 minutes to do schoolwork. Oh, and then for personal errands, I have an hour and 40, about an hour and a half, right? So I compared the two, and so something has to give, right? So I realized that, okay, this one I can move to another date. I have to move here, and this one I can move to another date, right? And then the lady actually emailed me back, so I was able to eliminate that. I didn't even talk to her. She said the slides were good to go. She made some corrections, and so that got eliminated. So I was under budget, so I can proceed with that. Any questions? Yeah.
So I'm not mathematical or this kind of thing, but it's just, initially when I see something, it's like, oh my gosh, but I want to talk about that. If you're like looking at this book, I'm not going to do that. My daughter, she does it. She manages the time perfectly. When she came home this summer for 2 weeks, she sent us an itinerary of how all the time we budget. And the family kind of makes fun of her, like where we're going to eat, what we're going to do, family fun time, 3 hours a stay. We laughed, but it was the best vacation ever. And now we're all saying we need to make some kind of a time budget. And so for me, mine would be a little different because I get to doing all those spreadsheets and stuff like that. But it really is incredibly effective. And at first, in the past, I've seen something considered, well, that takes all the fun out of everything. But it was the exact opposite this time. It was really nice to kind of look forward to things, and we got to do all the things that we wanted to do. So I just want to say that was just like, it really is unsold.
Well, thanks for sharing. And I want to mention that when I first did this, I really I gave myself a big cushion. I mean, this is after doing this for a couple of years. It used to be, let me go back here, I want to learn this. When I first started doing this to-do list, I realized that I got to ease into this, right? We got to take baby steps, right? When you go to a gym, you don't start bench pressing like loads and loads of pounds, right? You take things slow and steady. So when I put down time to talk to a colleague, I would do double that time, right? I would just do 30 minutes, even though I know that, I probably need to spend 15 minutes. Or if I grade exams, I'm not going to put down, this is a small class, that's why I put down an hour and a half. I put down 3 hours, right? I wanted to make it somewhat relaxing because I don't want to make it so that it's not fun anymore. This is a chore. And I want to ease into this Now, the more you practice, the better you get, right? And you know, people always stare, and they look at me and know you're a talented, you're a nerdy guy, you must be good at math. It's actually false. If you get to know me, I'm actually not that great at math, but I'm the kind of person who, if I'm not good at something, I just work hard at it, right? I just work hard until I get better at it. That's why I tell all my students, right? Some people have talent, some people don't have talent. But if you don't have talent, if you have heart, if you really work at it, you'll get better at it. Somebody's got to start a step at some point in time. So I hope you guys really try it. Like, when you guys do this, just give yourself more time, right? Ease into it. As you get better and better at it, right? You'll be fine. And thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Do you budget that when that self-improvement, that means you going in and checking in your schedule? Can you budget that time too?
Well, my self-improvement, thank you for asking. What I do for self-improvement is I have these books that I want to read, and so I used to read the books, but I realized since I'm driving a lot and that time is wasted, I just buy the audiobook. So right now I'm reading a book called The Charisma Myth, right? How to communicate. I'm concerned about talking. The reason I'm reading that book is because with some of my students, they're not easy to talk to, and I really reach out to them to show that I really care, right? I can't just tell them, hey, how come you're not doing your homework? I want to really sit down with them and have a heart-to-heart conversation. So I'm listening to that audiobook. So I budgeted for the week, I believe I budgeted an hour and a half. So on my 2 days that I commute, I looked at the time, I listened to those books for about 45 minutes on each of those days. So I put an hour and a half. So just, you can read books, you can listen to audiobooks, or maybe you want to go online and watch videos or something like that. But you just tell yourself you got to put in that time. So otherwise, how are you going to grow, right? You have to set that time aside.
This is something like this is self-improvement. Like what, if we started right, because it looks like to set it up, it would take a while.
Right, I think the question is, this actual process to develop this budget, where do you put that in the time budget?
Oh, okay. Well, you can create any category you want to, right? And once you get good at it, you can eliminate that category. But that sounds like a great idea, right? Just create a budget for this, right? To do this, right? Right? It's going to take some time, right? But the payoffs are tremendous. Think about the return on investment, right? You put in, let's say it takes you a while to get used to. Maybe you put in, like 20 to 40 hours. The returns will be 3-fold, 4-fold, 5 times, right? That amount. I even budget time to spend with my kids and talk to my wife. Yeah, you guys should hide this, right? But the amount of time, no, because marriage is in because one of the spouses doesn't put in enough time. They become workaholics, right? So while I was attending my married couples Bible study group, I realized that I'm a lousy husband. So I got to budget time to talk to my wife and my kids. Yeah.
What if your wife wants to talk to you longer than
I'm sorry, you're breaking my time budget. Fortunately, my wife's an accountant, so she's fixing budgets. No, but what happens then is, I'm glad you asked that question. If you go back here and look at my time budget, these are very good questions, and thank you for asking. You see this time down here for example, on Monday and Wednesday, I have 45 minutes for TV, internet surfing, and so forth. That's my relaxed free time. So if my wife needs to talk about something, then that's the time I eat into. Right?
you don't tell her you're eating into my
No, my wife is actually glad that I'm doing this time budget, because what happened before was I come home from work, I start checking my emails, and I just I'm so tired and stuff. But now I tell myself this is at the minimum. I better spend 15 minutes talking to my wife. I better spend half an hour playing with my kids, telling them a bedtime story. This is at the minimum, right? I don't want you guys to think that I'm a lousy dad. Yeah.
I like that because it's like a reminder to do things.
Exactly, it's a reminder.
You forget to do things.
Right.
You're keeping yourself accountable.
Exactly. Right. So think of some of these things that this is at minimum you need to do, and some of these is at the maximum. I want to make sure that I'm not spending more than for my schoolwork. I'm not spending more than 4 hours and 4 hours and 4.75 is 4 hours and 45 minutes. So that's something to keep me in check, because what I get carried away with is responding to student emails. I just keep responding, right? And so this is to keep me in check, saying, I gotta stop, I gotta spend some time with talking to my wife, I gotta spend some time playing with my kids. I know this is laughable, but I really got carried away before because when I'm one of the people who gets obsessed with things, and I get obsessed with serving my students. My wife says, you realize you are a dad, right? Next you know your kids are grown up, right? So, I'm sorry, I'm sharing too much about myself, but this is really what's going on, right? Yeah.
Actually, so I have a question, since you are sharing about yourself, one of the things that you talked about earlier was moving closer to work, but with regarding that being an option, you said
Yeah.
that you are full-time, but you're on campus 2 days a week.
Correct.
How much time are you here on the, so you have 4 classes that span the 2
Well,
days?
every department is different, but in the business department, we're fortunate enough that I'm able to teach one on campus and one hybrid, and the rest are online. So
Okay.
that's manageable. So everyone's situation is different. I know counselors you guys have to be here a lot more too, right? So everyone's situation is different. But the key thing is to capitalize on what you already have and try to streamline it, right? Try to make it more refined. So if you guys ever want to, just after this workshop, if you ever want me to sit down with you and we can plan out your own time. If you want me to sit down with you and help you with that. Okay? Good questions. Now I gotta get back to where I stopped. Let's see here. We are at so if you see that your to-do list time exceeds your time budget, here's some things you can do. Some things you can eliminate right away. Like I'm a neat freak, so I want to clean my room like at least every other day. But sometimes you realize that you don't have to. Your room can be messy, so just forget it, right? So sometimes I just I run there and clean my room, so I just strike it off from my list. Some things you can delegate to other people. So sometimes when I'm really busy, my in-laws live with us, so if I need to pick up my son for some reason, I can tell my father-in-law, hey, today can you do me a favor and pick up my son? Or I budget some time to do chores with my son or help him out with his homework. So if I'm really, really busy, then I'll just ask my father-in-law to step in. I know some people here might not have the luxury, but if you can't delegate the task to someone else, or if you have to move the task to a later date. And number 4, prioritize the tasks on your to-do list based on important deadlines, right? You obviously want to put the important ones in the earlier deadlines first, and then the ones that are later at the end of your list. And as you complete each task on your to-do list, check off on that. And it's a way to kind of show you, hey, this is what I've accomplished every day. It's a sense of pride that I was able to get all 10 tasks done. Right? Now, when you first start, you might not be able to get everything you list on there completed, but you'll see that you'll get better over time. Right? You get better. Maybe you only get half of them done. So who cares, right? That's still better than not doing it at all, right? And as you get better and better, you might be able to get 90% of that. We are on slide. Okay, some things to know about your to-do list. So try to schedule your most difficult tasks to times during the day when you're most productive, right? And some mundane tasks to times when you're least productive. We all, right, for all of us, we all operate at different times during the day. We all have certain times during the day where we're more productive. And like for me, I'm a morning person. Now I know some people are opposite. Some people are evening people, right? Because I'm a morning person, I want to schedule my most difficult tasks, the ones that are most mentally draining in the morning, and then like easier stuff like filing toward the end of the day, right? Or cleaning my room will be done toward the end of the day. But that's the way I operated back when I was in college, right? The classes I hated the most, like accounting and econ, I would study those in the morning, right? The classes I loved the most, like history, I would study them later in the day, right? When I'm tired and stuff. So that's how I was able to get my stuff done. So if you have something that's challenging, like if you hate doing your tax returns, do them in the morning, right? And things that you enjoy or kind of routine, like cleaning the room to it, that way you're great. So try to batch certain things together on your to-do list to increase efficiency, right? If you need to try to put things based on a certain part of town or a certain area of campus. So whenever I go out to do grocery shopping, I do all my errands that are related to that area. So if I go grocery shopping, I try to see my dentist is the same area. I'll try to drop off mail, go to the bank, all in the same area. It saves me time if I go do all those things individually. Some other things to note about the to-do list. Now, things will come up all of a sudden, right? You might get an email saying something's urgent. So don't react on it right away. Just finish the task at hand, then go back and look at your to-do list and change the priorities, right? Stick that into, go look at your priority list and reshuffle the numbers again. See, when you actually, before you add that on, see if you can eliminate it, delegate it, or move it to another time if you're too busy. Right. The next point is, never keep a to-do list in your head. It's not effective. Always write it down. And some people think, okay, I can put it in my mind, but the thing is, when you keep it in your head, it clutters your mind. Right? You want to use your mind to do other tasks. You don't want to keep your to-do list in your head. Besides the to-do list, keep a side list for things to do later on, including things to follow up on, things to think about more deeply or more carefully. So if we go back to the to-do list here, you see, so like yesterday, these are the things I had to get done during the day. But also I had a list of things to follow up on. So, for example, I recently booked a trip on Expedia. I talked to them on September 21st. They hadn't gotten back to me. So I wrote down the date of initial contact. So that way I know maybe a week from now, if they still get back to me, I can follow up on them. Right. Yesterday I spoke to Mitra from the math department about scheduling a meeting for the department. So she said she'll get back to me shortly. So I just documented that I spoke to her yesterday. So if I don't hear back from her in a week, I'll make sure to follow up on her, and so forth. Right? Because I used to keep track of these things kind of in my head, but it's really stressful. So relax, just put it on a sheet of paper, and you can know like when was your initial contact and when to follow up. And eventually, Mitra usually gets back to me really fast. I know I'll probably go strike this off in a day or two. Right? And this is things I need to follow up on. Here's some things I need to do. For example, you guys in the math department, I know John Cavedo invited the guy, Dr. Nolke, to come speak. I promised John I'd get back to him by September 25th. I made a note here. Right? I needed to do some of these other things. So these are things I need to do at a later date. Imagine if I could keep track of this in my head, right? It's going to drive me crazy. Okay, I mentioned this before. You may not be used to this routine at the beginning. It requires a lot of discipline. The key is to keep at it every day. You keep at it every day, just like working out. Do a little bit every day, a little bit, slowly you'll get used to it. And you'll become really well versed at this, and maybe you'll be able to teach a workshop on time management. So what is planning and budgeting your time work? As I mentioned before, it really reduces time wasted due to indecision, right? People always think about what they need to do next, but if you have everything written out, you don't have to worry about this. Writing things down removes clutter from your mind, frees up mental capacity to allow you to do, to focus and concentrate on other things that you need to do. And occasionally when you have insomnia, like I do sometimes, there you go, you know what you need to do the next day, and you can right away start crossing off things on that list as you accomplish it during the night. You guys have any questions about time budgeting? I know you already asked some. Do you have any other questions about time budgeting? Please try it. I know it looks very tedious, but it's well worth your time. The payoffs are tremendous. Okay, so now we're down to our last topic for today, which is specific time-saving tips for faculty. So there's going to be four topics I'll be talking about. First one is improving efficiency of emails. Second one, improving efficiency of grading. Reducing time dealing with students who want to negotiate or argue with you. And lastly, time-saving tips specifically for online classes. Okay. Improving efficiency with emails. Right. So I recall you asked me that question. I used to check email. I used to turn on, I leave my email open and just respond all the time. That was a big time drain. So I recall, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I attended a conference, and one of the professors there shared with me a technique that I use. I try to stick to now, and that is set 2 times during the day that you check your email. So maybe it's maybe one time in the morning at 11 a.m. and another time at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. This is one of the hard ones, right? I'm just kind of addicted to responding to email very quickly. So maybe I still wind up checking email 3 or 4 times per day, but it's still better than what I used to do, which is check email 10 times per day. But if you can, try to set 2 times during the day to respond to email. And turn off your you got mail notification. You have that ding or something like that noise, turn it off, right? Or just close out of your email and only check from one time in the morning and one time in the evening. And when you read your email, respond right away. Don't, because if you don't, what's going to happen? You're going to spend 2 minutes reading it, and then you're going to spend another 2 minutes reading it later in the day. Right? So just respond to it right away. Now, if it's something really important that you need to think about, then yeah, write a note to yourself, go revisit it. But 90% of the time, just respond right away. The other thing is in regards to like emails from students. Most of your students probably ask you the same questions, I'm assuming, like, Professor, can I get an extension on my homework? Professor, do I need to get the book? Or can I get the ebook? Right, some of the same questions all the time. So what I do is, because I usually spend a lot, I don't just say, no, you cannot get an extension. I usually write, no, you cannot get an extension because you need to keep on track. Otherwise, if I give you an extension, you won't be able to catch up with the next chapter. I write this really lengthy message. I look over to make sure that the tone is appropriate. Right? It takes a long time. I can just write an email in 1 minute, but I usually spend 10 or 15 minutes writing an email. So what I do now is I have a list of responses, right, that I should copy and paste into. So in the future, if another student asks me to make an extension, I can just paste that in and then customize it a little bit, right? Put their name on there, put a little bit about themselves, so it appears that I wrote the email from scratch. So keep a list of responses that you have to students and categorize them, and add on to it each time the student asks you a unique question. Do any of you guys try that already? It saves you a lot of time, okay? And this is an important tip. Don't check email before bed. It's going to cause you some insomnia. That's the reason why I kept mentioning insomnia. I used to check email before I went to sleep. Not a good idea. Improving efficiency with grading. Two tips. One is use a grading rubric, and two is set aside large blocks of uninterrupted time, either early in the morning or late at night, to grade your exams in one sitting. Right? I used to grade my exam, like for one class, I would grade some on day 1, and some on day 2, and then some on day 3. What I discovered is that by doing that, it's not very efficient. It might take me 4 or 5 hours to get those exams graded. So now what I do is I just hunker down. I carve out a 3-hour block of time, and I sit down, get my can of Coke, my snacks, I sit there and just grade nonstop. And I use my grading rubric. And I'm able to cut down my grade time by 40 or 50%. What's also great about that, so I'm faster in grading, I have less errors, I'm more consistent with grading. Okay? I just remember back in college, one of the things I was really upset about is, I had for example, for my econ class, I would look at how my professor took off points, and then I compare it to my classmate, I'd say, hey, how come we got the same answer wrong, but he gave you like more partial credit points, right? And I go and talk to my professor, what happened? Yell at me and get mad, right? But the fact of the matter is he probably spent, he probably graded at different times, and he didn't use a grading rubric. So to me, it's very important that I'm consistent with all my students. So I showed them my grading rubric. So let me show you guys what I use for one of my classes. So when I grade non-multiple choice exam questions, like, I know you guys probably don't know accounting, but like this problem, this is the answer. So I have how I take off points for every single situation. So I don't care if 2 students compare their tests, because they're going to see Professor Blue graded them exactly the same way. Now I even show them this. I give them this grading rubric, and I say, if you see that if I made an error there, tell me, right? Because I'm consistent. You can blindfold me. I mean, well, not, but you can erase your name off your test and they'll be graded exactly the same way. So they know that I'm not out there to get them. I'm just trying to be consistent. And this, most importantly, this saves you a lot of time grading. Reducing time dealing with students who want to argue or negotiate with you. The best way to do this is to create a comprehensive syllabus. When I first started teaching here, I had maybe 1 or 2 page syllabus. Now I have probably a 12-page syllabus, and it clearly outlines all my policies, right? So what is a comprehensive syllabus? One that outlines all your course policies, one that accounts for as many things that you can think of that can happen to a student. Like what if they're excessively absent, right? What if this and that happens? Right? Keep adding on to it every year. One that also provides for accommodations, right? You guys realize things do happen to students. So, for example, one of my accommodations is 2 homework drops. Right now, there's 13 homework assignments that I give for my accounting 2 class. I tell students, look, I know, some days you're sick, some days something happened in your life, you get 2 homework jobs. Right? But you use those up, that's it, right? And make sure that you have at the top of your syllabus some sort of language that says that this syllabus is a contract, right? If you choose to take my class, right, you have the freedom to not take my class. If you choose to take my class, this is a contract between you and I, and by staying in my class, you're agreeing that you're going to be able to follow these rules. And lastly, to make sure your students are going to read your syllabus, give them a syllabus quiz, right? Just give them a small amount of points to make sure they read it. Right? So most of my students do read my syllabus. For them, it's a nice reward. Get 2 points for reading my syllabus. Okay, so the last part of my talk will be on time-saving tips for online classes. Right? And here's some tips. First, try to front-load your work as much as possible to get them done before the semester even begins. So before fall semester begins, I use my summer to do all my, as much work as possible in advance. Before my spring semester, I use winter to do as much work as I can. So I create all my course materials in advance instead of trying to create them as the semester progresses. I create all my assignments and program them all in advance. I create all my announcements in advance and set them to appear at designated dates. Right? So I'm showing one of my classes here. See this class. You'll notice that I already have all these, this is kind of small, but I have all these announcements to open up at certain dates. And in there's several reminders, right? So these are all programmed in advance. So that way during the semester, I don't have to worry about announcements. Now, you realize that, right here, sometimes you see these in bold, I may modify some of these things, these due dates. The rest of the link, I put in bold things I might modify, but everything else stays the same, right? So you can customize, both these announcements are the same, but you can customize certain things here and there. Right? The key is we want to get these done before the beginning of the semester. By saving all this time, I can use the time to what? Help students one-on-one. I can give them a phone call to help them out with their homework problems or with their test questions. All this administrative stuff, just front load that, do that in advance. Save all your time to help students one-on-one. And buy a date finder calendar to remind yourself key dates when you do grade assignments, post scores, and modify announcements. I don't know if you guys know what a date finder calendar is, but this is what one of them looks like, right? So I have on here what I need to do, and this keeps me accountable. There's a student I'm mentoring from Black Collegians, right? He's having a hard time keeping track of his assignment due dates. I said, hey, that's normal. I had a hard time too. So I bought him one of these things, and now his life is a lot easier. So buy this. It's not that expensive, like $10. It makes a huge difference in your life. For weekly discussion board assignments, create a list of feedback responses for each assignment. Because I used to, I have these discussion board assignments. I used to write responses all the time, but I realized after a while that my feedback is usually the same. So what I have here, let me show you guys, is, for example, I have, these are some responses that I used in the past, depending on how the student responded. So now I just go and copy and paste here, so I'm writing each one all the time. I paste and then modify it a little bit to fit the student. You guys try that also? Well, if not, try it. It'll save you a lot of time. Create a Q&A discussion board and encourage other students to help other classmates by answering questions. And so what I do is, I have these Q&A discussion boards. If a student responds to other classmates, what I'll do is at the end of the semester, I'll go back and look. If they've been active and they're borderline, if they're between 89%, 79, or 69%, I'll bump them up to the next letter grade. So it gives them incentive to help out their classmates with easy questions. That's it. I hope this was helpful to you guys. I know this room is really hot, and you guys are probably dying from heat exhaustion, but I hope this was a benefit to you. I just want to share one last comment is, remember, always try to maximize every minute in your life. Every minute you save during the day adds up. You might think, okay, I'm just saving my 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, but it adds up, right? Just like saving money. 5 minutes saved here and there adds up to an hour of free time at the end of the day you can use for anything, right? Family, recreation, do more work, etc. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much.